complicated when someone has boundaries. They learn the system of order. So by doing that, you stop the arguments of things getting lost, stolen, or broken. And then you give your child the privilege of you have ownership. You have say. You're helping them practice that no reflex muscle. But if your child is constantly being, corrected for not sharing, then you teach them that they have to share everything. And then if there's sexual abuse or if there's something that's inappropriate, they're so used to sharing. They need to be able to practice that reflex muscle of no. So when they become adults, it's second nature. It's muscle memory. No. God bless you. No. I can remember my son Emmanuel when he had the sweetest way of being, just to say his boundaries. He was like 3 years old or maybe 4. And we say, Emmanuel, do you want to go spend the night with such and such? He say, no, thank you, and smile. And he still loved the people, but he was just so kind about it. And he learned a no system very early. And can I tell you, to this day, he has really good boundaries, even towards me. It's like, Mom, I can show you, but I can't do it for you. Or, Mom, I'm doing this right now. And if I responded in a way that's traditional, like, no, I'm the mom, I did all this for you, and I crossed his boundaries, then that would be an issue. But he developed his boundaries early. And a lot of adults don't have boundaries because they weren't respected and they weren't walked through the practice of boundaries. You get to walk through the practice of boundaries, like I said, with determining early. Even if you're the host of the party as a family member, you get to decide who's coming, how long they're staying, and what activities go on. It's a neighborhood. If I don't want people outside smoking, drinking, or causing ruckus, I get to let my guests know that we're going to have the events in the backyard or in the house. And the way my community is set up, we don't hang out in the front. So if you want to come, these are the boundaries. If you want to come, there's no drugs. This is a drug-free home. That's setting a boundary for your home. And yes, some people that are boundaryless will be upset, but remember, if you practice healthy no giving, then you can know, you don't have to feel guilty. I still love you, but I get to keep everyone safe. Everyone deserves to be safe, and boundaries are fair. Boundaries keep everyone safe. It's an assertive way to communicate everyone's needs and wants. No drinking here, no smoking here. If you use foul language and you start to get volatile, we're going to ask you to leave here. That's not what we're doing here. And you get to decide that before it happens. And pretty soon people will begin to know that this is what they can expect from you. So they conform. You introduce people to the world of boundaries. Because when boundaries are not in place, feelings are hurt, people are offended, breakdown happens, and estrangement happens. So we're trying to reduce the incidence of breakdown and estrangement through boundary. And we're trying to invite people back because they get to see, no, we have more structure now, and we have more respect now, and we have better communication skills now. We don't just talk to people any kind of way now. We have listening skills now. Please consider rejoining us. But what are they rejoining? You have to give them something to rejoin. Just to come back because we're blood, you're asking them to be back introduced to a volatile, sick, dysfunctional system. And no one wants that, so it keeps them estranged. So you get to decide. If you always have the event at your house, you get to say who wants to have it somewhere else. You get to decide. You get to decide your property, your finances, whatever it is. And that becomes deep in times of death, in times of financial crises. People will tell you, maybe because you're financially stable, how much you're supposed to give. You get to decide with your family or with yourself how much you're willing to give. And you get to give cheerfully. And you get to give not grudgingly and not out of necessity because, they need this. But you get to establish a boundary around this one life in relating with people. You get to decide that. And you have to know, again, that your ability to assert yourself can be impaired by neglect and sexual abuse. You don't know what you want. You don't know what you need. And that's also scary when you're in a system where people don't know what they want and what they need, so there's no boundaries. It's like That's scary. People like freedoms, but freedom without responsibility and accountability is extremely dangerous. So boundaries attach the accountability and the responsibility. It lets its members know that we're expecting you to do this. We're expecting you to show up like this. We're expecting you to have this moral behavior. And you get to decide if you agree upon it. And that's what happens. Usually people decide, I don't want to be a part of it, so they remove themselves. And you don't have to cut people out. They just look at a system, and if it's too, in their opinion, rigid, because there's too much order, then they want disorder and chaos, they'll leave the family system. And so you're left to manage that. You're left, that's why you need that support system, because you go back and they reinforce, no, you're not being selfish. No, you're not being mean. And no, you shouldn't feel guilty because, you stood up for what you needed and what you wanted and what was best for everyone, what was fair. And you need that constant reinforcement because you have people who are constantly trying to bring the chaos. So chaos and order collide. And it's like light and darkness, ignorance and knowledge collide. But once you come into the light of what's appropriate and what's helpful and what establishes healthy relationships, it's hard to go back into darkness. And those people that are in darkness, you have to be patient because they are not patient at the expense of your health or your safety, but they're going to be a little resistant and afraid to try something new because they are not self-regulated. So the system is asking them to regulate, but they're not self-regulated. But again, people who are not self-regulated are dangerous. They don't have any restraints or restrictions on themselves, so they'll do anything and they'll hurt anybody. And so we are in the business of promoting boundaries, not weaponizing them, not using them against people, but being fair, being honest, being loving, being forthcoming, and setting up systems that are godlike and that create the maximum amount of health so that one person is not bogged down with all of the responsibility. It takes careful consideration of everyone. People who have a lot of codependency, which means that they have an unnatural attachment to other people and they are dependent, their personality, their lifestyle is connected to other people, they have a difficult time with boundaries because they were never shown that there was separation and independence. So now they take on the responsibility. Like Susie in our story, she's going to have a tough time with boundaries because she's codependent. What codependent basically means is that if when you're about to die, you see other people's life flash before your face, that means you're codependent because you're about to die. Other people's life shouldn't flash before you. You're so vested in other people. What they eat makes you fat. If they're not happy, you're not happy. If they're sad, you feel like it's your responsibility to fix. So you're externally focused on making everyone else okay and not yourself. You disregard your personal needs and what you need in your boundary system, and you go beyond that and you join yourself to taking care of other people. If that is your story, you're really going to have a difficult time understanding it's not your responsibility. Parents can be codependent, spouses can be codependent, and what that looks like is you can't have a good day unless everybody else is having a good day. I tell my clients who are codependent, let's check on how the family is doing because I know how the family is doing. That's an indication of how you're doing because if the family's overwhelmed, you're going to be overwhelmed because you're not independent of the system in that way. You feel emotionally responsible for the family. You feel financially responsible for the family. And so what they do impacts your current state and your current mood. And so when that happens, you won't set boundaries. You don't know where you end and they begin. So you become the dangerous enabler in the family. And eventually, if you don't take account of that, then you'll get burned out and then you'll be estranged and leave the family because it becomes too much. And then you'll shut down and you'll either feast or famine. You won't do anything for the family. And now you're resentful because all the years you've poured, now you're the martyr, all the years you've poured into a family system that didn't support you because you never verbalized your needs. You never set up boundaries. And so people know who to go to. Susie is the go-to because she has no boundaries. We all have people in our family. I've been there. I've done that. I have t-shirts, but I've been retired innocently, not maliciously, where you just feel like your job is to take care of other people. And even your loving heart can cause you to not set up boundaries because you just want to help. You have to learn what's your responsibility and what is other people's responsibility, because it creates a toxic environment of resentment. It creates a toxic environment of dependency. And if someone changes and someone's depending on someone to respond the way they normally do, that's when you have breakdown, and that's when you have estrangement, because people feel like you changed. You changed on me. You must not love me because you used to have no boundaries and you gave me whatever I want. You said yes all the time. You know, I can have your time, I can have your talent, I can have your treasure, I can have your body, I can have, even in family members, I can have whatever. And now you're growing up and now you're trying to change the dynamics of the family. I'm out of here. I don't like this relationship the way it is. I don't like the boundaries. I'm out of here. So an ex-codependent personality can be the catalyst for a family breakdown because that person has enabled people and no one wants to take care of themselves, and they like the system when it's dysfunctional and one person does everything, like Susie. So it is imperative that we look at creating boundaries, managing boundaries, and respecting them, and not weaponizing them to hurt people, but to create safety so that we can invite people who have left the system back in, and so that we won't be abused in the system, exploited in the system, and so that our families become a safe place. We want to be safe. Documentation and statistics states that a woman is most vulnerable and in danger when she's pregnant. She's beaten more and even sometimes fatally killed. Violence happens in the home. Sexual abuse happens in the home. We need to create boundaries of safety. We need to become safe people to love and to be in love relationships with. It is possible. It's new. It may challenge the generations because Big Mom always expects you to do something that you can't do anymore because it conflicts with your family values. You have to have a conversation with Big Mom. You have to have a conversation with your parents that you're deviating from some of the time because you need to do this or that. It's okay. The biggest piece of advice that I would give you and that you should share, that you can share with others, is boundaries with communication works better. Because if you just start moving differently, like I said, it creates panic, fear, and resentment. Even with language, it's going to be difficult. But you want to reinforce the love, and you want to reinforce the time you are with one another to show, I love you. It may look differently, but I love you. The love is real, the commitment is real, and the boundaries are real.